Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Titans. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, we're picking up in the aftermath of last episode, and obviously Raven is somewhat okay. I thought she was going to be like in a coma or something, but it seems like she woke up and she's fine. Obviously, everything that she had, at first she kind of felt like her soul was gone, but then she's like, no, I feel kind of fine. And it didn't even cross my mind last episode, because now I look at it as more white, but I guess it's like considered blonde hair that she has now. And then I started thinking like, oh, so is this, because it didn't cross my mind until I started watching this episode. I was like, oh, this is kind of them going down the route of like, I don't know what that whole state is when, I don't know if it's kind of like an equilibrium that Raven gets, but there's that points where she wears the white instead of like her typical purple cloak, she wears white instead. So, like, I know two instances of it. It came up in the original Teen Titans cartoon. It's like, I think one time was when Starfire, I think the whole Dr. Light thing, when Starfire time traveled 10 years into the future and the Titans had basically broken up without her around. And, like, she found a Raven just, like, in this white room, white cloak and everything. But I think also it happened during the, I don't remember if that's just what she was wearing or that was a whole part of it, like the whole Trigon arc of the Teen Titans cartoon. I don't remember if this is 100% a part of that or not, but because I was thinking like, right, they took her power, and it does seem like it was 100% on purpose, because they're like, yeah, it's not what, it was never hers, it's like her dad's. I guess that's why she feels like, oh, like her soul was missing, because this is something that's been a part of her since she was a baby. It's been a part of her since she was born, but now without it, she feels light as a feather, because it's like, hey, I'm using that phrase specifically just because, you know, she's basically kind of a witch. So it's like, because of that, she doesn't feel the burden, the constant pain. She's constantly always feeling everyone's pain on top of hers. But now it's just like, oh, I feel light. I don't feel any of that. Like, is this what it looks like to be just like normal, feel normal? Obviously, being in creepy situations, it's like cool being in some creepy woods without powers. Being normal sucks in moments like this. Because she thought, like, right, like, she felt a responsibility because she had these powers. She was part of, you know, being a Titan. But Gar's like, yeah, but you shouldn't feel some responsibility for it because you didn't have a choice. These were just kind of thrust upon you. And the same thing's kind of in Gar's case as well. Like, you didn't ask for these powers. It is what it is, right? So, I'm curious to see what kind of happens in the aftermath. You'd assume Rachel's going to get her powers back, but I'm curious, like, what that looks like going forward. Will it be more of an equilibrium or something? Because also what I think it's interesting, like, she acts so different, and it's like there's like this peppy demeanor she has. I was like, oh, it's so weird seeing you, like, and I think the thing is kind of like fully happy, because yeah, she smiles and she's having fun sometimes, but it's like the weight of the world is always on her. I mean both literally and figuratively, because it's like, hey, like, she's literally feeling all this pain from other people all the time. Like, she's seen some horrible stuff. It's like, yeah, she's always had a special connection to the supernatural world. So now it's like you're kind of free of that. You got a little extra pep in your step. And it's interesting how this all kind of plays into, well, it seems separate from Gar's circumstances, because Gar keeps saying, like, whatever it is that's calling to him, they call him Skinwalker, which I'm like, oh, it kind of makes sense, because I guess it also depends on which, because I guess in general, Skinwalker is a shapeshifter, but I guess in my head, when I think Skinwalker, I think of a human shapeshifter, in regards of, like, supernatural, like, because they use the terminology Skinwalker there. I mean, there are different categories of shapeshifters, so I never think about shapeshifters in the, I never think of, like, transformations, even like a werewolf transformation. I think that technically is counted as a Skinwalker thing. But so does Beast Boy's circumstances. And the tree, it basically, and I think he said, like, these were, like, all these people, like, they're the bones, I guess they're the bones of maybe, like, every animal that's been hunted. And which part of me wonders, like, do you think, like, I don't know if that's how they're going to go about it. I was like, you don't think those are, like, the spirits of every animal he transforms into or something like that? Oh, God, who am I thinking of that has that power? Oh, I was thinking of Vixen. Because I was like, someone has that power when they summon the power of an animal. It manifests as kind of, like, at first, like, this, kind of almost like a Green Lantern glow around them in the shape of the animal. It's like, yeah, Vixen. I don't think it's going to be, I was wondering if it could be like a Vixen thing where it's like, all his transformation comes from all these the spirits of these, not monsters, animals that were hunted. Because last episode I was theorizing that maybe it has something to do with the Beast Within storyline, where like there's something deeper and more primal inside of him beneath all those, like there's something even more innate than like the animal transformations, just like he did in that one episode. Like I said it then. I still should have looked into it, but I'm pretty sure that's the only time he transformed. But there might have been later points that I just don't remember off the top of my head. It's been a long time since I've seen the original Teen Titans cartoon. Either way, so that's what my theory was on that part. But it's like someone's whispering to him about something coming, and there's a whole thing with the blood moon. It's like, yeah, once the blood moon rises, you'll lead us or something. But then that ties into Corey's circumstances somehow, because it continues to, like, Corey's still like on this trail of like, right, my destiny's always something someone else wants from me. It's like, yeah, I was supposed to do the Queen thing, then I was supposed to come to Earth, kill Rachel, the whole thing for Tamarin. It's like, I want to be able to live my own life and do my own choices, but it's like, it's all part of some destiny, which obviously includes the very one and only Dick Grayson, which not so much of a surprise considering Dick saw something in the Lazarus Pit, and I guess that's kind of what we've been picking up on like these past 2 episodes between him and Corey, is that very element. I could have sworn, like, was it Brenton Thwaites that said, maybe it was during season 3, and maybe the writers hadn't decided to go down that route yet, but I thought he said, like, because I guess fans of the show want him and Starfire together. I mean, thought him and Starfire would eventually get together, because once again, like, I said this last episode, I didn't know that was just, or maybe I said it in the first episode of the season, I didn't realize that was like a very classic, like, DC coupling thing. That's not a more modern thing. At least what I've heard from comic book people is that, like, that's a very 80s Teen Titans thing, not like a more modern thing. But, like, the original cartoon leaned into it, and Teen Titans Go super leans into it. So that's why I'm not sure. This episode also makes it seem like, yeah, they kind of make it sound like, Dick Grayson's kind of a bit of a man whore, which I'm like, hey, I guess this is the time of the man whore, because just like, yeah, She-Hulk kind of leaning into the whole fact is that Daredevil, Matt Mercer, apparently in the comic books is quite the man whore. So I'm like, oh, I never knew. Obviously, like, anything I've ever watched has never really touched on the relationship stuff, but I mean, I only just recently found out about, like, in more recent years, found out about the him and Barbara thing, because I always thought that was I was like, oh, aren't you guys kind of siblings? I guess that's the whole complicated thing of that dynamic. But yeah, like, that's what, like I said, my thing has always been like, oh, him and Starfire. So, regardless, but even, like, what was her name? Zadira was saying, like, yeah, even Dick Grayson's like, well, how do you know about him? It's like, he's part of your destiny. It's like, what does that mean? You'll know when you know. It's like, because I doubt Dick said anything about what he saw with the Lazarus Pit. I'm pretty sure that was the Lazarus Pit, right? Yeah. Or was that last season, or was that season 2 when he was becoming Nightwing? I don't remember. I think it was season 3. I'm fairly certain that was last season, but I could be completely misremembering. Either way. So that's definitely going to be interesting, like, and I find it fascinating, too, considering Corey and Rachel were connected, and now her and Gar are connected, but obviously it's like, there's been this connective thread between all of them when it comes to, like, destiny, just kind of like, oh yeah, this was always kind of meant to be type of situation. So, either way, I find that so fascinating. And I thought it was interesting, too, because, like, Gar can see, like, the sky turning red, but Rachel, obviously, without her powers, couldn't, not until Gar touched her, held her hand, and he was able to draw her into, like, whatever, like, experiences that he's having, so. And then a smaller part of the episode is Connor, like, I think it's a little bit of that Lex Luthor in him coming out just a tiny bit, not liking to lose. That he was like, yo, we got blindsided by the witch. She's like, next time I'll do better. I'll be better. It feels like he needs to, like he's overcompensating, because he's like, no, like, I'm Superman and I'm Lex. Like, I guess because he's never been that it's never been that one-sided, I guess, for Connor. He's always had the strength advantage in those type of situations. So it's like kind of being outscored by someone in that moment, I think kind of mess with him a little bit. So it's like, nah, dude, like I trust me, like, yo, Dick, I can figure this out. Like I can be, but Dick's like, no, don't try and go at it alone. Because I think Dick's learned that himself. Like, yeah, like, I don't want you to continue to make the mistake I've done. He's tried to go things alone, and that never works. I was like, we are a team, we're a family. Like, we stick this out together. We figure it out together. And I think, like I said, I just think some of that Lex is coming up, being like, no, I don't like losing. I want to prove I'm better, I'm stronger, I'm smarter. Like, I think that side of Lex is kind of rearing its ugly head just a tiny bit, and I think we're just getting a taste of it. I think it'll slowly rise more and more to the surface, but we'll see. Because him and Tim, Tim's off training, and I love that. Like, they're using that VR set, and like, he's got to let Tim hit him. He's like, really, do I have to do this? It's like, yeah, let him wear himself out, and then the training will actually begin. And it's like, okay, he's just like, just taking all the blows, just standing there. I love it. As Tim's just like swinging the bow staff like a maniac. But they look into Sebastian, and they find out, like, right, there's this murder that happened recently. These two workers died, but it turns out they have there's some symbols that pop up, but it doesn't match any occult stuff. But then it turns out it matches Sebastian's video game. It's actually a symbol at the core of his video game, and it actually ties into like a genetic marker that all the victims have. And I'm assuming that's the same. I think they were even referencing the victims from like the past 2 episodes were like that too. It's this genetic. So that's why specifically went after the people they did. Once again, I talked about it. It's interesting that you specifically the killer specifically went after women and killed the women, but drained the blood of these males. So I guess you're specifically looking for, well, because the lady had the marker because she died as well. But I mean, so maybe both of them just happen to have that mark. I don't know. Because I don't know if, like, maybe these women and men both have the marker, so that's why you go out, you drain the blood of one, but kill the other. Once again, I just think it speaks volumes, like, the killing the women part I just thought was kind of interesting, and it's the guys that you keep and bleed dry. Once again, you end up killing both of them in this regard, but maybe they're not going about, maybe they gathered enough power that they don't need to go the bone-faced, Nightmare Man route that was happening in the past 2 episodes, and now they're able to just kind of do it from afar without too, because that lady showed up in front of the bodies, so that's why I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if, like, the woman that had the staff and the lady that visits Sebastian, like, those are 2 different people, right? Like, I feel like they look a little similar, but I can't tell if those are 2 separate. I feel like those are 2 people. So it's like, we're dealing with 3 people? Because one of the people involved is the actress, which I'm like, oh, you're making the comic book rounds. Just because obviously she was in The Boys, and more recently she was in Resident Alien as Detective Torres. So I was like, oh, dude. I was like, that's wild. Oh, but I love that scene when Connor went to get Sebastian when they're reaching out to him and they're trying to get him. I guess he already said the words Azeroth, Metreon, Zinthos, and I guess that was all it took because the lady doesn't look too concerned. I guess it's like you having Sebastian actually either plays into their hands or it's like, sadly, you got to him too late. But the cinematography on that shot was nuts when it's just like Connor breaks through the wall and the brick wall is still like slowly breaking apart because it's like flying forward. He grabs Sebastian, turns and jettisons out. I was like, that looks so sick. I love, once again, I'm a sucker for some speedster stuff like that. So I thought that was super dope. I'm surprised Connor didn't stick around, but it's like, no, they got Sebastian and they're bouncing. But like I said, it's that thing of, oh, it's all kind of going according to plan. You can't stop what's already set in motion type of thing. Like I said, last episode, I assumed this was all about maybe resurrecting Trigon, but I guess it's like, no, the cult is trying to find maybe not necessarily their new Trigon as we're trying to resurrect Trigon, but maybe like they're finding, maybe it has something to do with like Sebastian's lineage or something like that, has some connection to this cult. Because they even called, God, what did they call Rachel? They called her something. It was like, I don't think they called her fake or something, or the traitor. Like she had no claims because because she turned her back on all of this the moment she turned her back against her father. This was kind of supposed to, I guess, eventually be hers, but like Trigon's gone and all they have is his power and there's no resuscitating him otherwise. This is kind of my understanding. Like I said, not unless that's still the goal. But Sebastian plays a role in all this because it seemed like they're doing everything they can. Like, obviously, it seems like they might have had something to do with killing his mom. They brought him to the office just so he could watch that guy kill himself. And then all of a sudden, the cops show up. It's just like the Connor thing all over again. Just when Lex ended up dying, it's like, everyone busts in, assuming that it was Connor that did it. So it's like, yeah, something's going on here. I mean, it's a cult. They're probably like, just like any situation, there's probably people in higher enough positions scattered throughout, probably even like the police and stuff like that in government positions and stuff, so no surprise there. But so that's one side, that's another side of things. But a good chunk of the episode involves Dick and Corey checking in on Jinx. I'd actually completely I saw the trailer and talked about it, but I don't think I even mentioned it in the trailer my trailer discussion because I completely forgot that Jinx was going to be in this. Obviously, my only experience with Jinx is there's a character that popped up in the Flash that I thought was Jinx, but it's not. I think I remember that. That was a couple seasons back. I thought this character was Jinx, but it turned out not to be. But yeah, I know Jinx from like the Teen Titans show and stuff like that, which is interesting considering like they've already met Gizmo. What's the Multiply dude from Hive as well? We haven't met him or Mammoth, but we have met Gizmo, so it's interesting meeting, but I guess maybe she's not a part of Hive in this universe, so either way, it's like you'd also think Dick would have learned his lesson after like working with Scarecrow last season, but it's like no, but I guess it's like, yeah, Jinx is a different breed, like she's a thief. I guess like his relationship with Jinx is pretty much like Batman and Selina's. It's kind of complicated like that, but a little more just having fun and nothing serious. Maybe. I wonder have they ever had a thing in the comics, him and Jinx. Well, no, because it's interesting. Interestingly enough, because I don't know, because of the Teen Titans cartoon, specifically Teen Titans Go. But I think it came up in Teen Titans as well. I don't remember him going undercover there, but it was because obviously Teen Titans Go, I know at least it leans into the cyborg and her having a relationship, so that was kind of interesting. But she manages to escape, but Dick knew exactly what job she's going to go get the job, finish the job she couldn't before. Sadly, Corey opens a chest. It's a heart inside of it, turns her to stone. It's like, we're just going to have to find the elf this heart belongs to, and she's the only one that can remove the spell. And just Dick's like, Jesus, I hate magic. It's like, man, I love how we're finding out how much Dick hates stuff in this season. It's like, man, he hates ninjas and he hates magic. I wonder, does Bruce share that hatred with magic? I'm sure Superman does too, because it's like, man, magic sucks. I mean, it's like, yeah, because that's one of the other things other than kryptonite and like someone just of equal power, magic can fuck up Kryptonians. So, I mean, that's also why Connor's at a disadvantage too, because it's like, yeah, this is a situation where like someone has got your maker, like they got not your maker, but you get what I'm trying to say, like, got you numbered, because it's like, yeah, they got the next best thing to kryptonite and superhuman strength. If you have boost in magic as well, and just like it's annoying and it's just a world that Dick doesn't completely understand, because at least some rationale to like he can figure stuff out, it's like the detective in him, but it's like, even if it's like, if I don't, when magic's involved, it's just kind of like, whatever, I just thought that was interesting. And we find out a little bit about the thing that they've had. Seems like, because like him and Barbara got into trouble in the past and stuff like that, so it seems like him and Jinx are kind of the same way, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, we had fun, and it's like, yeah, until you kind of betrayed me. It's like, she's like, yeah, you sold me out to Constantine rather. I'm like, I guess like all the British like people are like leaning into the Constantine of it, or I wonder if they're going to make more of an effort to do that going forward or something like that. Because once again, I'm like, DJ Wooldridge is somewhere out there being like, yes, I think I've talked about that before, because he's always been a proponent of going the Constantine route, because I think like Alan Moore in particular, I don't know if he made the character, I think, or maybe he did a very specific run of the character. I don't know. I think it might have been Alan Moore, maybe it's someone else. it's always been a Constantine, and obviously like the more like American accent, it's Constantine. Because even in Legends they called him Constantine. I don't know if they ever correct, but I could see like in the on Sandman it's Constantine as well. So, but in that like everyone has most of everyone has a British accent, so I guess that's why they kind of lean into it. I guess that's also being trying to be faithful to the source material by doing that, because like yeah, that is the proper pronunciation. Is it that big of a deal? No, but I just think it. I every time I hear Constantine, I perk up. I'm like, that's like someone, because it's super noticeable. Because like most people would just say Constantine. I've said Constantine forever, and so when people say Constantine, it's very noticeable. Just thought that was interesting. But I loved it being like, yeah, because of that, Two-Face got away. So they've had a very, very complicated relationship. Like I said, it sounds very much like it sounds like a more fun, less serious, like, as in less serious, it's like nothing like romantic, like it was never like going to be something romantic. It's a less romantic situation than like the whole Bruce and Selena situation. But even like that's what that conversation is what made me go like, oh, is Dick Grayson a man whore in the comics or something? Just because of the whole conversation, she's like, oh, I thought this was your latest like pump and dump because it's kind of your thing, and it's like, well, because because we've touched on some relationships in this. I know obviously him and Dawn, it was him and Dawn, then him and Corey, then him and Barbara happened at a different point in time, and then now it's like back to potentially, and at some point in time him and Jinx and God knows who else, and then at some point in time it was I was going to, it's back to like kind of him and Corey type of situation. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens on that front. But with the Seed of Elf, Jinx was just playing him yet again, because it's like, cool, I could have actually gotten rid of the spell at any point in time, but I just wanted to put you in a situation where like you could help me steal something again, because it's like, right, that was never the goal. It's to distract so-and-so so that I could steal some stuff. And it's like, yeah, people didn't, it's like, they just look at him as like, ugh, he's some human here, but it's like, he's a pretty damn skilled human that even that elf, like, kind of, he took her down. I'm like, cool, that's not going to do the human world any favors when it comes to them being like, yeah, humans suck. It's like, yeah, they're going to lean into that notion even more so now because of this. But, Dick ended up finding out, like, right, she's in the hole. She's got a death mark. Basically, she owes somebody, what was it, $5 million? And he's like, all right, here's the transfer. It goes through in 7 days, so I need your help with all of this. Because she was like, because obviously she knows the supernatural world, but she doesn't know every magic user. It's like, oh, someone for staff. It's like, whoever it is, you're outclassed, but you think I'm supposed to know everyone? And he's like, yeah, I figured you would. So, they luckily, I love the whole thing of like, she's like, oh, you want to save Corey? You have to kiss her. He's like, what? And he was going to do it. She's like, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to see if you'd actually kiss a rock. I'm like, you're such an asshole. But it's like, kind of figured of like, oh, is that supposed to be like leaning into like the fairy tale of it all? But it's like, no, I got it. And I love that when Corey came back, it's like, did you? And it's like, no, I told you not to open her mouth. She's like, all right, but if you betray us, I will fuck you up. And walks away. It's like, ooh, I see why you like her, Dick. And it's just kind of like, all right, cool. This is going to be an interesting partnership, because I'm sure Jinx is going to use this opportunity to get close to Corey and be like, oh, did Dick tell you about all the stuff we've been through? And it's like, because obviously Dick doesn't really talk about that type of stuff, especially when it's like his past with a villain like Jinx and stuff. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all this takes us. Now that they ended up rescuing Sebastian, Jinx is in the mix, and once again, the cult doesn't seem like they care about that, but we'll see where that ends up going. Try to figure out how all these pieces play out in this giant puzzle. We'll also have to wait and see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.